I've been at a very, very beautiful military memorial day where they are memorizing a specific event that happened 30 minutes from here in the Second World War. They drop soldiers out of airplanes and they have all these demonstrations with helicopters and tanks. And it was really, really beautiful to see um, and to remember all these awful things that happened in the war, where my grandfather actually was a part, and he didn't take a part in this specific event, but he played a huge part in the role. And every single time I go to these commemorations, I feel tears and sadness, but also pride and joy because, for instance, my grandparents would never have met each other if it weren't for the war. The interesting thing that it also brings me is that I more and more get awareness around what free state really is. So when we think about freeze, we think about the deer that stops its entire body when there's headlights, right? That's what freeze typically is. But freeze actually has more ways of showing up. Freeze can also be a state where we're actually able to go through the motions of life, and we all know that, without actually participating. And that is a state where our creativity is actually frozen and where our sense of self is put on hold and where we're actually not able to take decisions, to fully enjoy, to step into things, to choose, to make decisions, to reach out, to really connect. And that's a very different state of freeze. We know the state of freeze where we think, okay, everything stops, I can't breathe. We know that one. That's a trauma response we're very familiar with. But we're not so aware with the frozen state that's actually a part of daily life, where we might even be successful in our jobs or in our business, where we might function pretty well from an outside perspective, but where we've actually frozen off from our true power. Now, the interesting thing is this sounds terrifying, right? And it is. Look around you. I don't know by heart. I never studied it. But if I look around me, I think 80% of the world is in that kind of freeze state. And the more people I speak to at the current moment, the more people are actually sliding into that freeze state because of all these crises that we've been in, right? There's just been a crisis too many, right? And then we tend to go into these survival responses where we don't know anymore and we kind of think, you know what, I'll just wait. And we set ourselves in this waiting moment, almost holding our breath, bracing ourselves to see, you know what, let's see what's coming. Now, that's not a good response if you look at what's going to be coming because nobody actually has a clue what's really going to happen, right? And we don't have a clue. That's one part. The other part is we're creating part of what's going to happen. So then what's going to happen misses the voice of somebody who could actually bring health. I talked about that over the past week. That was when I was talking about winterproofing ourselves. But there is another side to it, and that is that a freeze state can actually give us a really good healing quality if we use it correctly. That is then also how we move through it. That means we have to acknowledge that we're in a freeze state. So if we don't acknowledge that we're even frozen to begin with, then we go through the motions, say, well, you know what, I have nothing to complain about, and we just almost pretend that we're doing life, and life is being done to us, if you will, in a certain way. But then if we acknowledge that we're in that freeze state, then there's an opportunity because then we can say, I need my system to actually get some time. I need to allow myself to melt, even, if you will. I need myself to slow down, to readjust to what's happening. And I need myself to not move so much so that I can breathe out, slow down. But that requires, firstly, acknowledging that there's a freeze state going on. And it also requires us to acknowledge that that freeze state is not the state of the world that's never going to end, but that it's more a temporary valley that will be followed by another mountain. So it's an ebb and flow, right? It's just an ebb state. Okay, I'm actually in a freeze state right now. Let's sink into that. Let's allow it. Let's accept it. Let's embody it and really give it space. Now, if we do that, then the freeze state actually becomes an ebb state, which is really good for nourishing, for allowing our nervous system to calm down, for seeing, okay, I'm holding the space. Instead of waiting, I'm holding space because I don't know what's coming. And then what happens if we do it that way is that we start holding space and we start re-amplifying our nervous system, and it actually regains its qualities to actually see, to actually feel what is really going on in the present moment, instead of freezing and anticipating on what might be coming, which is actually coming from our past. Now, this is just a very simple thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to freeze state. We need to learn how to do this before this winter comes, because there's a lot of changes coming. The war is actually, I'm hearing some very optimistic sounds around it. There is a lot of things actually unraveling that actually are quite hopeful. But we need to tune into that hope, see it, feel it, and allow ourselves to unfreeze, to restore, so that we actually regain our sense of power back. If you want to learn how to do that, tomorrow there's a masterclass at 2 p.m. Dutch time. Otherwise, just send me a message, because and watch out for my lives, because this is a topic I'm going to be talking about a lot, but there's a specific masterclass all around how to stop procrastinating and really start winter-proofing yourself, because that is what we need to do right now. It's coming up. I forgot the date. I'll be talking about it a lot over the coming week. So freeze can be a really beautiful quality if we allow the freeze. If we don't fight it, if we don't pretend it's not there, if we don't start to brace ourselves, but if we start to relax in, well, it's not relaxing into it. It's more like allowing it and allowing ourselves to use it properly. If we do that, it's actually very helpful. I'm really wondering how you, if you're listening to this, how you know you're in freeze state, if you acknowledge this, what thoughts you have around this, if you're allowing yourself to actually move through it, and if you would actually know the difference even. Because holding space is a very different thing than freezing, but it can look similar on the outside, and we can easily trick ourselves into thinking we're doing one where we're actually doing the other, because it's an act of holding. It's not a sitting still and waiting for the universe to deliver on something. It's actively looking and acting on things. So let me know your thoughts. I'm really curious. I'm going to cook for my family, and I hope to see you soon.